One of the goals of leading a spiritual life, no matter what your beliefs are, is to live authentically. Your beliefs and your reasons for believing them should be honest. Your perceptions of the world should also be true to your senses and not misleading or self-deceiving. Yet there is a phenomenon of human nature to ignore spiritual matters that are too complicated, too confusing, or too unrelated to the more pressing matters of daily decision-making. This forgetfulness can turn authentic living into a kind of false pursuit, and some decisions made might not be taking full account of the full reality, since this false pursuit creates a false reality bubble to make life easier on the individual. And what's really interesting is that some of these matters affect atheists too, people who have given up on theistic spirituality. They rely on society's easy answers provided by scientists and so-called experts who are just as spiritually blind as them, living in their own false reality bubble.
Hello. In this video, I'm going to talk about the 4 theological enigmas. That's my term for these mysteries, and I discuss them in detail in Chapter 1 of Christian Pursuit.
Acknowledging these mysteries is critical for spiritual maturity. Understanding them is necessary for spiritual growth. Ignoring them will lead to doctrinal confusion and error. Pretending they don't exist will lead to philosophical and spiritual oblivion because you will be denying some very fundamental elements of reality.
I didn't invent these enigmas. In fact, many people have addressed these in different ways and called them by different names too. Immanuel Kant named his mysteries the 4 antimonies. So what I'm about to describe isn't some armchair YouTube theology. These are real mysteries of existence, and everyone on earth is affected by them. The purpose of this video is to raise awareness of these mysteries so that any faith is a truly aware faith and not an ignorant one.
You can't claim intellectual or spiritual maturity if you close your eyes to reality.
Enigma number 1. Existence.
Right now, the 2 main competing theories for life and existence are 1, the creation story in Genesis with Adam and Eve, followed by an apocalyptic flood and Noah's Ark with a handful of couples repopulating the earth over the span of 5,000 or 6,000 years, and 2, a Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago, where all the energy and matter eventually formed galaxies, stars, and planets, and then through some molecular interaction and maybe lightning, cellular life evolved, which then became every living thing in the world. The Genesis creation story sounds like a fairy tale, especially with all of the physical evidence in the world showing the extreme age of everything, including life. It has been a heavy burden for Christians to have to defend that. It would have been easier if they understood the enigmas. Choosing which theory to believe depends on which evidence you believe. Genesis is in the Bible, and believing requires faith in Scripture. To accept the Big Bang evolution theory, all you need to do is basically accept the prevailing popular theory supported by a vast majority of society's scientists. But here's the secret. The scientists aren't as certain as they claim to be. To proceed further, we need to understand something called an overconfidence bias. It's a type of cognitive bias which is a well-documented psychological trap where people see what they want to see, and it can happen in many different ways. For our creation theories, we're interested in bias that comes from looking at evidence. Let's imagine someone betting on a sports team, and they've analyzed all sorts of stats that give them the odds for making a bet. But what if there's an unknown factor that has predetermined the outcome that they weren't even aware of? Their overconfidence bias allowed them to make a losing decision that had no conception of true reality. In a similar way, when scientists and naturalists are gathering evidence for the Big Bang evolution theory, they are focused on evidence like fossils, stellar drift, carbon dating, erosion, cosmic microwave background, etc. They look at all of this evidence and develop an overconfidence bias that their evidence is all there is. But in truth, unknown and undiscovered evidence could exist that changes the whole equation.
What follows are 10 reasons why the cause of our existence is not as certain as we think. Some reasons are stronger than others, but together they should make any reasonable person consider these mysteries with a little bit more humility and hopefully be more open to other explanations for existence, such as metaphysical causes, even though our social prejudices might resist that.
Reason number 1. Simulated reality, the matrix theory.
One counter theory that has become trendy is the simulated reality theory, or the matrix theory. The theory that everything we are currently experiencing is part of some computer-generated program. If we were in an unimaginably complex virtual reality, then all of the so-called evidence being gathered by naturalists to prove the Big Bang evolution theory is just evidence that the program created for them to find, and doesn't give any proof at all of the true reality. This might sound silly to a lot of people, but some very respected scientists are talking about this as being a real possibility. The main evidence for simulated reality comes from progress made in virtual reality. If virtual reality is this good after 10 or 20 years of development, what will it be like in 100 years, or 1,000, or 1,000,000? Our civilization is very, very young on the cosmic scale, and it's likely that other civilizations came first. If that's the case, then our consciousness might be a creation of some advanced civilization. In fact, some people think the odds favor that it definitely is.
While many respected scientists and philosophers consider simulated reality a real possibility, it still means that there is an advanced, non-metaphysical civilization running the simulation. However, the matrix theory can also be used as an analogy to our relationship to the metaphysical world, or the divine reality. I'll talk more about that towards the end of this video.
Reason number 2. Fine-tuned universe.
If the matrix theory of life doesn't persuade you that there are undiscovered mysteries to the origins of the universe, how about the fine-tuned universe mystery? There are many physical constants in the universe, values for basic properties of mass, energy, gravity, and the interaction of all things. These are easily computed using modern technology. However, the values for these constants seem to be exactly what we need for life to exist in this universe. If the values were off for any of them by even a small amount, galaxies wouldn't form, stars wouldn't form, molecules wouldn't form, and life would be impossible. Some people have embraced this mystery as proof of God's involvement in the design of the universe, and perhaps it is. But we really don't need to stake our reputation on that, because evidence changes and theories change. In the 17th century, the Catholic Church decided that Aristotle was right when he said the Earth was the center of the universe. And when people like Galileo questioned that, they got arrested and sometimes killed.
The fine-tuned universe mystery isn't going away soon, but it isn't the only mystery in science that scientists would like to pretend doesn't exist. Does any of this prove that God exists? No, that's not the point. These 10 reasons are meant to inform you that there are great mysteries to the enigma of existence, and no one should have full confidence in science's popular explanation, Big Bang and evolution.
Reason number 3. The mathematical nature of the universe.
While the fine-tuned universe mystery centers on the mathematical constants found in nature, another mystery surrounds the presence of other mathematical formulas governing physical laws. For example, everyone knows about pi. It's the number you get when you divide a circle's circumference by its diameter. Why then does pi show up in places having nothing to do with circles? It shows up in probability formulas, quantum mechanics, acoustics, waveforms, and much more. There's also the golden ratio, or phi. By using geometry to dissect rectangles, you create a well-recognized pattern that is seen throughout nature. Another weird one is the Fibonacci sequence, where adding up adjacent numbers creates a number pattern that is seen throughout nature.
There are too many examples of these mathematical mysteries and coincidences to list here. Our universe follows a pattern, but why that pattern should be so connected with these particular numbers and formulas is a great mystery.
Reason number 4. The mysteries of quantum physics.
There are 3 well-known mysteries in quantum physics that scientists have no clue how to explain. They are the double-slit experiment, quantum entanglement, also known as spooky action at a distance, and the light delayed choice experiment. There's no time now to go into detail describing each one, because there are some very good videos on YouTube by actual scientists with fancy graphics explaining them, and links to those are in the description to this video. The main takeaway once you see these videos is there are mysteries at the subatomic level that no one understands. Scientists are smart enough to discover them, but they have no good theories to explain them. Still, that doesn't stop them from their overconfident statements to the public that the Big Bang and evolution are the only real theories for life.
Reason number 5. Dark matter and dark energy.
Did you know that scientists don't even know what 96% of the universe is made of? Observable matter and energy account for 4% of the universe. The other 96% is a combination of dark matter and dark energy, and no one knows what they are. Wouldn't you call that a large hole in our knowledge? And yet it doesn't stop people from overconfident theories about origins of the universe.
Reason number 6. Size of the universe.
Speaking of the Big Bang, according to theory, the universe existed in an infinitesimally small point in space, and then bang, it expanded many times faster than the speed of light. From that, 100 billion galaxies formed with 100 billion stars each. That seems kind of hard to imagine. Except, that only refers to the observable universe. Because the universe expanded faster than the speed of light, many galaxies formed so far away that their light hasn't even reached us. How many other galaxies, you might ask? A better question is how many other universes, because the unobservable universe is believed to be 15 million times the size of the observable universe. That's like our observable universe is a dime on an American football field, and the unobservable universe is the entire football field. Or, our observable universe is a quarter on a professional soccer field, and the soccer field is the unobservable universe. So imagine our 100 billion galaxies times 15 million, all squeezed into a tiny point in space and exploding to create everything there is. That is the currently accepted scientific theory for creation. Quintillions of galaxies with octillions of stars and planets, all originating from that original speck of pre-Big Bang something.
Reason number 7. Quantum field theory.
This theory is a prevailing theory in physics, but it seems its weirdness hasn't reached the public awareness yet. It has been proven that in empty space, in a total vacuum with zero particles, virtual particles can pop in and out of existence. Where are they coming from and where do they go? How does matter appear and disappear? It sounds like magic instead of science, but that's the current understanding of physics.
Reason number 8. Atomic composition.
And speaking of which, what is matter exactly? Einstein said that matter and energy are the same, but how does that affect our understanding of reality? In quantum field theory, physicists believe that what we think of as atoms are really wavy bits of energy and not the ball-like protons and neutrons that textbooks show us. It sure feels like science is getting rewritten in front of our eyes, which makes one wonder why they were so confident in their theories before, and also if they should be confident now.
Reason number 9. Atomic dimensions.
In pictures, we see a nucleus with electrons closely surrounding it. In reality, if we use the hydrogen nucleus as an example, the electron is 33,000 nucleus lengths away. Larger atoms like carbon, gold, or uranium have a larger nucleus, but the distance is still around 10,000 to 20,000 nucleus lengths to the electron shell, which is practically the same percentage of emptiness. So what does it mean? Atoms are 99.9999999999999% empty space. When a hammer hits a nail, do you think atoms are actually touching? No, there's an illusion of solidness because when the atoms bang against each other, their electromagnetic forces repel each other. The cloud of practically massless electrons surrounding an impossible-to-understand sphere of emptiness repels the cloud around the other nucleus. That ratio of nucleus's volume to empty space is so great, it's like comparing the mass of a human body to a single cell, maybe even smaller than a cell. That's how great the difference is. Everything you look at you think is solid is mostly empty space with clouds of forces surrounding the actual mass. Does that prove the existence of God or add to any other theories of creation? No, but it's something to think about. Your body and everything you can see and touch is basically empty space. Granted, a human body has a trillion, quadrillion atoms, but that's a lot of tiny nucleuses, but they're far apart with lots of empty space in between.
Reason number 10. DNA.
One scientific mystery that rarely gets mentioned is the nature of DNA. We all know that DNA is present in every living thing, including animals, plants, and bacteria. But what is DNA? It's long chains of molecules paired up along a helix, with one half of the pair on either side of the helix. But there are only 2 possible pairs of 4 different molecules. That means that each step in the sequence of DNA is either one or the other pair. Now something doesn't seem right. It works, but why does it work? What is so special about a million pairs in different orders? What possible complexity of information can be communicated through ABCD or CDAB? It's basically a binary system, but binary doesn't mean anything without some kind of source code telling it what each sequence means. DNA contains the instructions for all the varieties of life, But at the beginning, there needed to be a reason why any change in such simple binary information should produce specific original forms. People will often say, with 4.5 billion years of evolution and mutations, anything is possible. Except, 600 million years ago, the most complicated form of life was a microbe. Then suddenly, in what is called the Cambrian explosion, complicated animal life started to evolve. Just something to think about if you go around saying anything is possible given enough time. The more accurate statement, if you believe in evolution, is to say that it took 4 billion years to go from nothing to microbe, and then 600 million years to go from microbe to human.
This is just a short list, a top 10 of what could easily be 20 or 30 more. Are you still willing to have faith in whatever science tells you is the correct way of looking at the world? Don't get me wrong, I love science and trust scientists and doctors with all sorts of subjects. I just don't share their overconfidence when it comes to explaining the origins of life or the universe. I'm a little more humble in my assessment of the evidence at hand, knowing there are great mysteries that should not be forgotten. To me, science is like children playing in a room with toys and Legos. They can create amazing things with them, but they have no idea where they came from. They might think, oh, there are more toys in that corner, so they must have come from there. But remember, even with the cosmic microwave background and cosmic expansion, we can only see 1/15,000,000th of the universe. We're a dime somewhere on a football field making theories about what the entire field looks like, where it came from, and where it's going. And the ridiculous part is, physicists rarely consider metaphysical evidence in the world when assessing their confidence. That's enigma number 3, and we'll talk about that very soon. Does any of this prove that God exists? That's not the point. It proves that overconfident scientists and people who have faith in them need to be more aware of this enigma if they want to live authentically. And if that humility leads them to consider faith in God, then so much the better.
Enigma number 2, time.
When I consider the short duration of my life, swallowed up in the eternity before and after, the little space which I fill, and even can see, engulfed in the infinite immensity of spaces of which I am ignorant, and which know me not, I am frightened, and am astonished at being here rather than there. For there is no reason why here rather than there, why now rather than then. Who has put me here? By whose order and direction have this place and time been allotted to me? Blaise Pascal, Pensée, number 205.
Do you believe you have an eternal soul? Does your faith say that humans are required to live a physical life on earth, and when this testing period is over, there will be a judgment and you will move on to an eternal reward? Let's do some simple math. The average lifespan is around 80 years, and the timeline is eternity. What are the chances of you being alive right now? It's 80 divided by infinity. That's equal to 0. Any number divided by infinity is equal to 0. So even if you believe in reincarnation and you live 1,000 lifetimes, that's 80,000 divided by infinity, which is 0 again. What about some faiths where they think we live millions of lifetimes, as bugs, as animals, as humans? Even if it's 1 billion years divided by infinity, it's still a 0 probability of being alive if at some point you will be rewarded or punished with some eternal situation. That eternal after period outweighs any period of time spent on earth, no matter how many years or lifetimes. What about your existence before now? When did time begin? And how did it just so happen to be the middle of your worldly test right at this moment? The mystery that Pascal recognized is that your life exists in the middle of an eternity before now and an eternity after now. That's some finite number in between two eternities, and it doesn't make any mathematical sense to be alive right now. Most people will respond, I am alive right now, so it doesn't matter. Bingo! That's inauthentic spiritual living described in the first 10 seconds of this video. You're taking a complex and confusing spiritual reality, deciding it's not important to your daily decision-making, so you ignore it. This time enigma isn't just for people. The same can be said for the universe itself. Where did everything come from? The Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago? Okay, what was before that? Something had to exist. It didn't just come from nothing. And where's everything going? Some people think it's an unending cycle of Big Bang followed by Big Crunch, repeating forever. But it still had to start from something. Otherwise, it always existed, and that's kind of simplifying the mystery so it can be ignored. Inauthentic atheist living. One possible answer that sort of addresses the mystery of time but raises more questions is viewing time as circular instead of linear. If time is a circle and your life is a finite part of that circle, then the ratio wouldn't be 80 divided by infinity, it would actually be something computable. Let's pretend our souls are like angels, and for whatever reason we spend 80 years on earth, followed by 920 years in heaven, and then we repeat. The odds of being alive would be 80 years divided by 1,000 years, or an 8% chance of being alive right now. 8% is more reasonable than 80 divided by infinity.
Even though the angel theory makes mathematical sense, Christians don't believe in that. Christians believe what the Bible says.
And as it is appointed unto men once to die, but after this the judgment. Hebrews chapter 9, verse 27.
It's also the verse used to deny any reincarnation. But as previously shown, it doesn't matter if it's 80 years or 80 million lifetimes, the infinity always negates the chances. But it doesn't make mathematical sense, so we ignore it.
Yet to live authentically, we need to ignore it less and let ourselves be humbled by this great mystery that has no answer. Enigma number 1 can be solved easily if life is a simulated reality, but the time enigma has no conceivable answer, except maybe circular time, but that has problems too.
Enigma number 3, the metaphysical world.
The first two enigmas were mysteries that applied to everyone no matter their personal beliefs. These next two enigmas are experienced on a personal level, different from the experiences of others, though others may share some aspects of your experience. The world's population is divided along the lines of those who believe in the supernatural metaphysical world and those who don't. We might think these choices are simple, but there is something else going on. Matters of faith are very personal and strongly defended. It doesn't even matter what religion you believe in, you will strongly defend your belief because it is somehow part of your core identity. The same is true for those who don't believe in the metaphysical. They have strong opinions about those who do believe in it, thinking they are weak-minded or deluded, or uncommitted to scientific cultural progress. To them, science explains everything. They believe primitive cultures needed religion and faith to explain things that science now explains. When we learned about how the planets move, and how disease occurs, and how weather happens, we no longer needed gods to be responsible for that. And faith in the afterlife is merely an emotional crutch to feel better about a natural but painful part of life, death. So who is right? If the metaphysical is real, and our spirit or soul is connected to that reality, then perhaps those who have faith have had a mysterious experience that has awakened spiritual knowledge within themselves. The other explanation is that one's personal metaphysical connection is delusional. Then again, the opposite can be true. A lot of people have total faith in scientists and their theories of creation, even when there are great mysteries they can't explain and probably never will. They also can be accused of being somewhat delusional, ignoring the mysteries and evidence of intelligent design. There's another phenomenon that might cause someone to believe or not believe in the metaphysical. Have you ever tried to convince someone of your supernatural experience, only for the person listening to shrug it off? If the receiver doesn't want to believe, there's nothing that can be done to convince them. It's as though they won't ever believe until something inside of them flips a switch and then they are ready to believe. This is beyond teaching and believing something of any other subject matter.
With enough evidence, we can choose to believe something that was unknown to us before. But with the supernatural and metaphysical, some other element is needed for the person to believe, and the source of that something is beyond normal investigation.
Enigma number 4, personal relationship with God.
Jesus taught us that God has a personal relationship with all humans. How is that possible? If 1 million people are praying at the same time, how does God hear them all? How can God process every thought and action of every person on earth the way we expect an omniscient God to do? We do have a modern analogy. What if there was a quantum computer with the most advanced AI system imaginable? What if this AI could see and hear everything and record our thoughts too?
Now, God is not an AI computer hidden in a metaphysical dimension that somehow interfaces with our world. But there is a skill needed in order to understand this enigma, and that is the ability to use physical elements as analogies for the unknowable metaphysical elements. The matrix analogy can be used to understand the difference between the world's reality and the metaphysical reality. Circular time can be used to understand an infinite cycle, but the metaphysical view of time is probably very different and unknowable to us. And trying to understand how God could be connected to all souls at once is another profound mystery. But AI and quantum computing and mass surveillance show a physical analogy to a property of God that is metaphysical in nature and unknowable. This tool of using analogies to address mysteries is necessary because people of weak faith will judge God's infinite abilities because they can't understand them. But here we have a chance to say, hey, you know, in the future, AI quantum computers will process quadrillions of instructions per second, so why couldn't God do the same or better? Then all we need to do is be creative and imagine that our metaphysical selves, our souls, are all connected so that our thoughts and actions are all part of God's sensory abilities. And now we can see that it is possible for God to be omniscient. I repeat, God is not an AI computer, but some metaphysical quality of God allows him to know all of us completely and have a personal relationship with billions of souls. It doesn't make sense to our concept of how relationships work, but that's what makes this an enigma.
Honorable mention: causality.
This list of enigmas is far from complete. These are just the top 4 that I think have the most impact on religious pursuit. I mentioned Immanuel Kant and his 4 antinomies at the beginning of this video, and how they are very similar to my 4 enigmas. One difference between our lists is that he included causality as one of his enigmas. This is the idea that everything seems to be connected, and there's a mystery as to what is truly original. This includes physical phenomena and even free will. I wonder what Kant would have said had he known about the double slit and delayed choice experiments.
Honorable mention: existential differences.
The causality enigma suggests there are predispositions and influences in motion that aren't in our power, casting further doubt on the true nature of our identities. Our daily lives require us to make assumptions about other people that may be very wrong, and we might never be able to truly understand them. One example of this is the difference between men and women. A man might read every book in the world about the experiences of women and still never understand what it means to be a woman, since there are experiences that can't be understood without living them. The same inability to truly empathize exists in many other situations, such as sexual orientation, age differences, racial differences, economic differences, and even historical era differences. For example, can we truly understand the narratives of the Bible when their lives were so different from ours? A lot of doctrinal study tries to understand the social situations of the ancient cultures to better understand God's message, but many assumptions are made until some just ignore the difficulty and create error. I write a lot about existential differences in my book Christian Pursuit, and I might create a video about it too. It impacts so many things in life, and interpreting doctrine and God's will is a big part of that. The enigma is that as individuals, we understand reality a certain way, but it can be very different from someone else's reality. The big question is, since God created the world that way, what is the most righteous response to adapt our decision-making and account for the differences? That's one of the main themes of Christian Pursuit.
Honorable mention: instincts.
This last honorable enigma is to show that we are surrounded by mystery. How does a spider know how to build a complicated web? And how does a bird know how to build a complicated nest? A baby spider is an egg, and when it hatches, it starts building something that is an engineering marvel, a web anchored and designed with amazing efficiency. The animal world is filled with behavioral mysteries that people just ignore, but they are in our face all the time. Literally, spider webs are sometimes in our face as though the world was saying, "Look at this and know how little you understand the world."
To learn more, please check out Christian Pursuit, where the enigmas are discussed in even more detail.
May God bless you in the name of Jesus. Thank you for watching.
Be sure to like and subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss the next important video, Christianity and Disclosure, coming soon.